Government Road, Hoylake. It sounds rather official, and in many ways it was, because for over 150 years this was the maritime centre of Hoylake when it was a major port on the Dee estuary. I was born here in the mid-1950s, but it's changed a great deal since then. As you headed down the road towards the beach, you once had woodland on your left, and then the Coast Guard cottages that many people still remember, and beyond that, the lifeboat station. When I was as young as 2 or 3, I used to be collected from this house here by the retired lifeboat coxswain, a man called Herbert Jones. He used to keep his hand in and he would come down to the lifeboat station and open it up for visitors. I had the run of Hoylake Lifeboat Station, and that's really where my love and fascination for all things lifeboats began. So on this very spot in 1803 was built Hoylake's first lifeboat station. But the Hoylake crews didn't just operate the lifeboat from here. There was a second station built on Hilbre Island. The Hilbre Island Lifeboat Station was built in 1847 by the Liverpool Dock Board trustees, and a number of lifeboats were stationed there over the years. I used to marvel at the old sepia photographs of the station, the boats and the men that crewed them. My childhood dream was to restore the wonderful old sandstone building, to bring it back as an operating lifeboat station. But with the extremely harsh weather conditions and the pounding seas often encountered out here, that was always going to be very difficult. But I was fortunate in discovering the last lifeboat to ever serve here. The Chapman lifeboat came to Hilbre in 1924, serving until August 1939, when she sailed away for the last time. 35 foot long and made of Honduran mahogany, the Chapman is 110 years old. This makes her the oldest surviving Liverpool-type lifeboat. She's now listed on the National Register of Historic Vessels, but she hasn't always looked this good. When I found the boat with my father back in 1998, she'd been left deserted on the banks of the Ribble. She was in a very poor condition. She actually had a tree growing inside her. Both the sides of the boat were burst open, and she was pretty well beyond repair. In fact, my father looked at it and said, "Great idea, son, but I think you probably ought to forget it." But in fairness to him, he's been my strongest supporter ever since. I couldn't leave the boat there. She's the last Hilbre Island lifeboat, she's unique, and I had a dream that one day we would get her restored. We'd bring her back to Hoylake, where she could be the centre of a lifeboat museum. The restoration work on the Chapman was carried out by 12 trainees at the Laird Foundation in Birkenhead. This provided a unique training opportunity for young people, which was one of the main objectives that we had from the outset. The 19th of May this year, we managed to bring the boat back to Hoylake, 72 years since she was sailed away, supposedly for the very last time. Just as we were completing the restoration of the Victorian lifeboat Chapman, I received an email. "Can you help me restore my Liverpool-type lifeboat?" So I replied, as you do, and discovered that the boat was the Thomas Corbett. Thomas Corbett was the Hoylake lifeboat from 1970 to 1974, and I'd actually been trying to find out where she was for some time. I began to talk to the owner of the boat and described the project that I had in mind to bring her back to Hoylake and restore her as part of the museum. He thought it was a great idea and said that he'd be very happy for me to take over the boat. At that point, I discovered that he was in Waterford. So the 63-year-old Thomas Corbett was shipped over through Dublin and brought over onto the Wirral. We've started restoration on this boat, but as you can see, there's an awful lot of work still to do on her. She's basically in sound condition in terms of the hull and the decking. The Chapman was the oldest Liverpool-type lifeboat. This is one of the last to be built. The boats are essentially the same design, but as you can see, this is a twin-engine boat. Training opportunities would continue with restoration work on the Thomas Corbett, helping to preserve age-old techniques in shipbuilding and restoration. So everything was rather happening in reverse order. We were acquiring and developing a collection, but we still didn't have a future home for the lifeboats. What changed this was that the RNLI decided to build a new lifeboat station in Hoylake, and this duly opened in 2008. Clearly this vacated the existing lifeboat station, and that was obviously going to be an opportunity for us, but there were a number of commercial interests who were interested in developing the building. It might well have become a warehouse or even an office block. Many local people wrote to the Board of Peel Holdings asking for the opportunity that we could turn this wonderful old building into a lifeboat museum, and Peel listened, and they said that they would go ahead and give us that opportunity, but we then needed the money, and we needed money quite quickly. And we were very fortunate that a local benefactor, Tony Crane, came forward with an offer to buy the lifeboat station and lease it to us on a long-term basis. We've now reached an agreement with Tony to do that. So with those key elements in place, at long last we had the opportunity to set up the museum. And we've now moved forward, we've established a committee, we've moved the boats in. We hope to open this August, but there's much to be done within the building. The building obviously is ideal for housing a Victorian lifeboat, that's what it was built for. But we actually have two buildings down here on the promenade in Hoylake. The neighbouring building is the tractor shed. It was built around 1930 when Hoylake was given the first lifeboat tractor in the world. The tractor shed itself has been altered over the years, and in fact we plan some further alterations too. We intend to include a cafeteria, a good quality kitchen, toilet facilities. We also intend to have our main display room on the first floor of the building. This offers some fantastic views over the beach, out to Hilbury Island and across Liverpool Bay as far as Snowdonia. We hope to move onto the land neighbouring the museum. This is currently neglected. It once housed a beautiful Victorian pavilion, and ultimately one day we would like to see a Victorian pavilion once again sitting proudly alongside the Lifeboat Museum here on Hoylake Promenade. Hoylake Lifeboat Museum will be unique in this part of the country, telling the story of the pioneers who first went out to save lives in Liverpool Bay. It will tell the story of Hoylake men who crewed lifeboats not only here on Hilbury Island, but at lifeboat stations around the Mersey and Dee estuaries. This will be a place where some of the older generation can bring their memories, bring their recollections, a focal point for young people, for schools, to come and learn about how Hoylake was, to come and learn about lifeboats. Hoylake's gift to the world.